Min Suk stared at the eviction notice taped to his apartment door, the red letters screaming, "Final warning," in the dim hallway light. 48 hours. That's all he had left before his landlord threw him out on Christmas Day. 3 months of unpaid rent, Korean won 4.5 million he didn't have. His hands trembled as he counted the crumpled bills in his pocket for the third time that night. 800,000 Korean wons. Not even close. The other Omegas at the diner said he should just find a rich alpha to take care of him. But Min Suk would rather freeze on the streets than become someone's property. He'd already lost everything when his family disowned him for presenting as Omega. He wouldn't lose himself too. Seoul's outskirts were brutal in winter, especially for a rejected Omega with no pack and no one to call family. Min Suk pulled his threadbare coat tighter as he trudged toward the diner for another double shift. 14 hours of grease burns, grabby customers, and a manager who forgot to pay overtime. His studio apartment was barely bigger than a closet, the heater barely worked, and the neighborhood was so dangerous that even the police didn't patrol after dark. But it was his, at least for 48 more hours. The snowstorm hit without warning, thick flakes turning the narrow streets into a white maze. Min Suk ducked into the diner's back alley for his break, trying to figure out which bills to pay first, when the night exploded with sound. Gunshots. Sharp cracks echoing off brick walls. Then a baby's screams, piercing and desperate, cutting through the howling wind. Min Suk's Omega instincts screamed at him to run, to hide, to survive. But that baby's cries. He ran toward the sound instead. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers, and tell me where you're watching from. Min Suk's feet moved before his brain could catch up, slipping on ice as he ran deeper into the alley. Every survival instinct he'd honed over 3 years of living alone in this hellhole screamed at him to turn around. Gunshots meant gang violence. Gang violence meant bodies. Bodies meant police. And police meant questions an undocumented Omega with no pack couldn't afford to answer. But that baby wouldn't stop screaming. The sound was raw and primal, the kind of cry that bypassed logic and went straight to the gut. It triggered something deep in Min Suk's Omega hindbrain. Something he'd spent years suppressing with black market suppressants and sheer willpower. His hands clenched into fists as he rounded the corner behind the dumpster, and the smell hit him first. Blood. Fresh and copper-sharp, mixing with the clean scent of snow and something else. Alpha pheromones, thick and overwhelming even in the freezing air. Then he saw them. A massive man lay crumpled against the brick wall, his expensive black coat soaked through with blood that looked black in the dim light. But it wasn't the blood that made Min Suk freeze. It was the way the Alpha's arms were locked around a car seat, his body curved protectively over it even in unconsciousness, shielding the screaming infant from the snow and wind. Min Suk's breath caught. The Alpha's face was half hidden by the shadows, but Min Suk could see the sharp cut of his jaw, the stark paleness of his skin against dark hair matted with melting snow. Blood seeped from multiple wounds, shoulder, side, thigh. So much blood. Too much blood. The baby's cries reached a fever pitch, tiny fists flailing from beneath a blue blanket. Shit. Shit, shit, shit. Min Suk dropped to his knees in the slush, his worn jeans immediately soaking through. He reached for the car seat with shaking hands, but the Alpha's grip was locked tight even unconscious. Let go. Come on, please. The Alpha's eyes snapped open. Min Suk jerked back, his heart slamming against his ribs. Those eyes were dark, nearly black, and they cut through him with an intensity that made his Omega instincts shriek in 2 different directions at once. Run. Submit. Run. Stay. The baby. The Alpha's voice was a rasp, barely audible over the infant's wails. His hand moved, trembling, to grip Min Suk's wrist with surprising strength. Please. Don't let them. He coughed, blood flecking his lips. Don't let them take him. I won't. I promise. But you need to let go so I can. The Alpha's fingers loosened, and his eyes rolled back. His body went limp, sliding sideways into the snow. Min Suk lunged forward, catching the car seat before it could tip over. The baby inside was maybe 3 months old, red-faced and screaming, bundled in blankets that probably cost more than Min Suk's entire apartment. A boy, judging by the blue hat barely clinging to his tiny head. Okay, I've got you. Min Suk's voice cracked as he lifted the car seat with one arm, trying to check the Alpha's pulse with his free hand. It was there, thready and weak, but there. You're okay. You're both okay. He wasn't okay. They were both definitely not okay. Min Suk's mind raced. He should call the police. He should call an ambulance. He should walk away right now and pretend he never saw anything. But the Alpha's words echoed in his head. Don't let them take him. and the desperation in those dark eyes made something twist in Min Suk's chest. Who was hunting this alpha? And why did they want the baby? The wind picked up, driving snow into the alley, and the baby's cries turned to whimpers. Min Suk looked down at the alpha's prone form, at the growing pool of blood beneath him, at the weapons he could now see holstered under that expensive coat. This man was dangerous. Obviously dangerous. Probably a criminal. Definitely involved in something that ended with bullets and blood in a back alley. And Min Suk was about to make the stupidest decision of his life. "You're going to owe me for this," he muttered, grabbing the alpha under the arms. The man was solid muscle, easily twice Min Suk's weight, and hauling him even a few inches made Min Suk's shoulders scream in protest. "Both of you are going to owe me so much." The delivery cart. The one the diner used for their bulk kimchi orders. It was chained to the back door, rusted but functional. Min Suk's manager would kill him for taking it, but his manager could get in line behind whoever shot this alpha. It took 20 minutes of desperate struggling to get the unconscious alpha into the cart, the car seat wedged beside him. The baby had quieted to soft hiccuping sobs, his tiny fingers grasping at air. Min Suk tucked the blankets tighter around him and started pushing. His apartment was 3 blocks away. 3 blocks of deserted streets, driving snow, and a cart that squeaked loud enough to wake the dead. Min Suk kept his head down, his heart pounding, half expecting to hear more gunshots or see black cars screech around the corner. But the streets stayed empty. The only sounds were the cart's wheels, the wind, and the baby's occasional whimper. When Min Suk finally shoved the cart into the narrow service elevator of his building, he let himself breathe. His hands were shaking so hard he could barely press the button for the 4th floor. The alpha's blood had soaked through Min Suk's coat, warm and sticky against his chest. The elevator lurched upward, and Min Suk looked down at the unconscious alpha, at the baby watching him with wide, dark eyes so similar to the alpha's it was unmistakable. "What am I doing?" Min Suk whispered. "What the hell am I doing?" The baby hiccuped, and a tiny hand wrapped around Min Suk's finger. His apartment door was still plastered with that eviction notice when he finally got them inside. Min Suk kicked it shut behind him, chain-locked it, and shoved his flimsy kitchen table against it for good measure. Then he looked at the bleeding alpha sprawled across his floor, at the baby starting to cry again in his arms, at his tiny apartment that was barely big enough for 1 person, let alone 3. "Merry Christmas," Min Suk thought hysterically. "You've just kidnapped a baby and a dying alpha. Best holiday ever." Min Suk laid the baby's car seat on his bed, the only safe flat surface in the entire apartment, and turned to the alpha bleeding out on his floor. The man's expensive coat was ruined, soaked through with blood and melting snow. Min Suk grabbed his kitchen scissors and started cutting. The fabric fell away in strips, revealing a tailored suit underneath. Also ruined. Also being cut away. Min Suk tried not to think about the fact that this alpha's undershirt probably cost more than Min Suk earned in a month. He tried even harder not to think about the body underneath. All hard muscle and golden skin, now streaked with crimson. 3 gunshot wounds. Shoulder, side, and thigh. None of them through and throughs, which meant the bullets were still inside. "Okay," Min Suk whispered to himself, his hands already shaking. "Okay, you can do this. You've watched medical dramas. How hard can it be?" Very hard, as it turned out. His first aid supplies consisted of a half-empty bottle of soju, a rusty sewing kit, and the emergency suture thread he'd stolen from the veterinary clinic 3 doors down when his neighbor's cat got into a fight. Min Suk poured soju over his hands, over the wounds, and steeled himself for what came next. The alpha didn't wake when Min Suk dug the first bullet out of his shoulder with a pair of sanitized chopsticks. That was either a very good sign or a very bad one. Blood welled up, hot and slick, and Min Suk's stomach churned as he pressed gauze. Actually paper towels because he didn't have gauze against the wound. Behind him, the baby started crying again. "Not now," Min Suk muttered, using the sewing kit to thread the needle with shaking hands. "Give me 5 minutes. Please, just 5 minutes." The baby's cries intensified. Min Suk worked faster, his stitches ugly and uneven but functional. The shoulder. The side. The thigh wound was the worst, the bullet lodged deep in muscle. And by the time he fished it out, Min Suk's hands were covered in blood up to his elbows and his vision was swimming. He tied off the last stitch, wrapped the alpha's torso in his only clean bedsheet torn into strips, and finally, let himself collapse against the wall. The baby was screaming now, face purple with rage. "Right. Yeah. You need food. Or a diaper. Or both." Min Suk dragged himself to his feet, grabbed the car seat, and brought the baby to his tiny kitchen counter. "I don't have baby stuff." I don't have any stuff. I'm barely keeping myself alive, kid. The baby just screamed louder. Min Suk unbuckled the straps with clumsy fingers and lifted the tiny, warm weight into his arms. A boy, definitely. Maybe 3 months old. He needed a diaper change, desperately, and Min Suk had exactly 0 diapers. Or formula. Or bottles. Or any idea what he was doing. This is fine, Min Suk said hysterically. Everything is fine. He used dish towels as makeshift diapers, safety pinned together with the pins from his laundry line. He diluted some of his instant coffee creamer with warm water and let the baby suck it off his clean fingers. It wasn't ideal. It probably wasn't safe. But the baby stopped screaming and started making small, satisfied sucking sounds, so Min Suk counted it as a win. With the baby finally quiet in his arms, Min Suk turned his attention back to the unconscious Alpha, and to the coat he'd cut away. It lay in a heap by the door, heavy and blood-soaked. Min Suk should throw it out. Burn it, maybe. Instead, he found himself kneeling beside it, the baby cradled in one arm as his free hand explored the pockets. The first thing he found was a gun. Not a small gun. Not a maybe he has it for protection gun. A military-grade Glock with an extended magazine and what looked like a custom grip. Min Suk's breath caught as he set it aside carefully, like it might explode. There was a second gun in the other pocket. And a knife. And brass knuckles. What the hell? Min Suk breathed. What the actual hell? The inside pockets revealed more. Stacks of cash, American hundreds, crisp and new, wrapped in rubber bands. Min Suk counted 5 bundles before his hands started shaking too hard to continue. $50,000. Maybe more. Just sitting in this man's coat. Then came the passports. 4 of them. Different names, different photos that all looked sort of like the Alpha, but not quite. Different countries. Kim Ji-hoon. Choi Tae-sung. James Park. Kaito Nakamura. Min Suk's stomach dropped. The baby made a small sound, nuzzling against Min Suk's chest, and Min Suk held him tighter. There were more items. A phone locked and probably encrypted. A USB drive. Business cards for companies Min Suk had never heard of. And at the very bottom, wrapped in plastic, a small velvet box. Min Suk opened it before he could stop himself. A ring. Gold and simple, with an inscription inside. For Yuki with love. Yuki. The baby's name was Yuki. Min Suk looked down at the tiny face, at the dark eyes now drifting closed, at the small hand curled against his chest. Then he looked at the unconscious Alpha, at the weapons, at the false identities scattered across his floor. This wasn't just some Alpha caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. This was someone who lived in the shadows, someone who needed 4 different names and enough firepower to start a small war. Someone dangerous enough that other dangerous people wanted him dead. And Min Suk had brought him home. "I'm so stupid," he whispered, rocking the baby gently. "I'm so incredibly stupid." The Alpha's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. His face, relaxed in unconsciousness, looked younger than Min Suk expected. Handsome in a sharp, dangerous way, with a scar cutting through one eyebrow and another along his jaw. His hair was longer than current fashion, pushed back from his face, and even covered in blood and sweat. He radiated an authority that made Min Suk's Omega instincts want to simultaneously submit and run. The snow continued to fall outside, piling up against the window. The heat in Min Suk's apartment barely worked on good days, and this was definitely not a good day. He could already feel the temperature dropping. Min Suk gathered the weapons carefully, storing them in his kitchen cabinet behind the ramen packets. The cash went into his freezer, the passports into a drawer. He kept the ring box, though, tucked into his pocket. Something about it felt important. Personal. The baby, Yuki, had fallen asleep against Min Suk's shoulder, breathing soft and even. Min Suk made a nest of blankets in the car seat and laid him down gently, watching to make sure he kept sleeping. Then Min Suk turned to the Alpha bleeding on his floor, to the man with 4 names and enough secrets to get them both killed, and wondered what the hell happened next. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The snow kept falling, and Min Suk sat in his tiny apartment with a wanted man and a baby, realizing he'd just crossed a line he could never uncross. His eviction notice still hung on the door. 48 hours until Christmas. Somehow, homelessness seemed like the least of his problems now. Min Suk jerked awake to cold metal pressed against his throat. "Where am I?" The Alpha's voice was a rasp, deadly even weakened. "Where's the baby?" Min Suk's heart stopped. He'd fallen asleep on the floor beside the Alpha, exhausted from hours of playing amateur surgeon. Now those dark eyes were open and lucid, boring into him with an intensity that made every Omega instinct scream danger. The Alpha had somehow found one of his guns, Min-suk must have missed one. And despite the blood-soaked bandages and the fact that he could barely sit up, his hand was steady. The baby's fine, Min-suk managed, forcing himself not to move. One wrong twitch, and that gun would go off. He's sleeping. In the car seat. On the bed. The Alpha's eyes flicked toward the bed, confirming, then back to Min-suk. Who are you? Who sent you? Nobody sent me. I found you in an alley. You were bleeding out. Bullshit. The gun pressed harder. Vitelli's men? The Russians? Or did my dear cousin finally grow a spine? I don't know who any of those people are. Min-suk's voice rose despite himself. I'm nobody. I work at a diner. You were dying in the snow with a baby, and I made a stupid decision. That's it. The Alpha studied him, those dark eyes cataloging every detail. Min-suk could see the exact moment he registered the Omega designation. His nostrils flared slightly, catching the scent even through the suppressants. Something flickered in his expression. Not softening, exactly, but a slight recalculation. You're Omega. Brilliant observation. The Alpha's jaw tightened. Don't be smart. Where's my phone? My weapons? Kitchen cabinet. Except for that one, apparently. Min-suk nodded at the gun. And your cash is in my freezer. The passports are in the drawer. I wasn't stealing, I was just. You went through my things. You were unconscious and bleeding. I was checking for ID so I could. Min-suk caught himself. So I could what? Call the police? He hadn't even considered it. Look, you begged me to save the baby. So I did. Both of you. You're welcome, by the way. The Alpha's expression was unreadable. The baby. His name is Yuki. I know. I found the ring. Something dangerous flashed in those dark eyes. You had no right. Yuki chose that moment to wake up crying. The change was instantaneous. The Alpha's head whipped toward the sound, his entire body going rigid. The gun lowered, just slightly, as Yuki's cries intensified from sleepy whimpers to full-blown wails. Min-suk saw his chance and took it. He twisted away from the gun, scrambling to his feet and moving to the bed. He needs to eat. Or another diaper change. I've been using dish towels because I don't have. Give him to me. The Alpha tried to stand, made it about 6 inches off the floor before his leg gave out. He caught himself on the wall, his face going gray with pain. Give him to me now. You can't even stand. You'll drop him. I won't, the Alpha's voice cracked. Please. I need to see that he's okay. The desperation in that single word, please, cut through Min-suk's fear. He lifted Yuki carefully, the baby's cries reaching a fever pitch, and crossed the small space to where the Alpha had collapsed against the wall. Here. But if you pass out, I'm catching him. The Alpha's arms came up, and the moment Yuki settled against his chest, something fundamental shifted. The dangerous edge didn't disappear. Min-suk suspected that never fully disappeared, but it softened. The Alpha's large hand cradled Yuki's head with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone who'd had a gun to Min-suk's throat seconds ago. Sh, little one. Uncle's here. I've got you. The words were soft, in Korean, but with a Busan accent Min-suk hadn't expected. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yuki's cries quieted to hiccups, then to silence. His tiny hand found the Alpha's finger and gripped tight. Min-suk watched, something twisting in his chest. Uncle. The Alpha didn't look up from Yuki's face. My brother's son. My brother and his mate, they were killed 4 days ago. Coup attempt in my organization. The baby is the heir, which makes him a target. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hand trembled slightly as he stroked Yuki's back. They came for us at the safe house. I got Yuki out, but they followed. The crash in the alley, that was them running us off the road. Your organization, Min-suk repeated slowly. You mean? The Choi family. I'm the head. Those dark eyes finally met Min-suk's. My name is Ji-hoon, and you've made a very dangerous decision, Omega. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. Snow was falling so thick now that Min-suk couldn't see the building across the street. The weather report that morning had called for light flurries. This was becoming a full-blown blizzard. The Choi family, Min-suk said faintly. As in the Choi family. The one that controls half of Seoul's underground. The one that... He sat down hard on the floor. Oh my God. I kidnapped a mob boss. You saved a mob boss, Ji-hoon corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Because I'm pretty sure both end with me dead in a ditch. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. Ji-hoon shifted Yuki to his shoulder, wincing at the movement. You're Omega. Unmated, from the lack of bonding scent. No pack, or you would have called them instead of doing field surgery with what? Cooking chopsticks. They were sanitized, Min-suk said defensively. You're also clearly insane. Jihoon's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. What Omega in their right mind drags a bleeding alpha and a baby home in a snowstorm? One who's apparently too stupid to live. Or too kind. Jihoon's expression sobered. They'll be looking for us. My enemies. The ones who killed my brother. Once the storm clears, they'll track us. They have resources, connections. And when they find us, they'll kill us both, Min-suk finished. They'll try. Jihoon's hand went to Yuki's back, protective and possessive. But I won't let them touch him. Or you. I'm not your responsibility. You are now. Those dark eyes pinned Min-suk in place. You involved yourself. That makes you mine to protect. The words sent a shiver down Min-suk's spine that had nothing to do with the cold. The way Jihoon said mine carried weight, possession, a promise wrapped in a threat. Outside, the wind shrieked. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. The apartment plunged into darkness, lit only by the gray light filtering through the snow-covered window. Perfect, Min-suk muttered. The power's out. How long until it comes back? In this neighborhood? Could be hours. Could be days. Min-suk fumbled for his phone, using the flashlight to navigate to his closet. I have some candles. And blankets. The temperature's going to drop fast. Jihoon was quiet for a moment. Then, we'll need to stay warm. Conserve heat. I know how hypothermia works. I mean, we'll need to share body heat. All of us. Jihoon's voice was matter of fact. The baby especially. He can't regulate his temperature yet. Min-suk's hands stilled on the blanket pile. Share body heat. With an alpha. With a dangerous, powerful alpha who'd had a gun to his throat 10 minutes ago. Every survival instinct screamed no. But Yuki made a small sound, and Min-suk's Omega hindbrain whispered, protect the baby. Fine, he heard himself say. But you try anything, mob boss or not, and I'm putting those bullets back in you myself. Jihoon's laugh was dark and rough. Deal. The first real fight happened over a diaper. You're doing it wrong, Jihoon said from where he was propped against the wall, his leg elevated on Min-suk's only pillow. There is no wrong way to safety pin a dish towel to a baby's butt. Min-suk didn't look up from his work, trying to keep Yuki still on the bed while the baby squirmed. Unless you want to get up and do it yourself? Jihoon's silence was answer enough. He'd tried to stand twice in the past hour, and nearly passed out both times. The blood loss was catching up to him, and his body was forcing him to stay down whether he liked it or not. The pin is too close to his skin, Jihoon persisted. You'll stick him. I'm not going to stick him. I've done this 4 times already. And the first 3 leaked. Min-suk's hand stilled. He turned slowly to glare at the alpha. Did you just critique my makeshift diapering technique? Someone has to. The baby deserves better than. The baby deserves formula and actual diapers and a warm apartment with electricity. Min-suk snapped. But we're working with what we have. So unless you've got supplies hidden in one of those fake passports, you can shut up and let me work. Jihoon's eyes flashed dangerously. Even weakened, even bleeding through his bandages, he radiated authority. The kind of authority that probably made grown men piss themselves in boardrooms or back alleys, or wherever mob bosses did their business. Min-suk refused to be intimidated. He'd faced down alphas twice Jihoon's size when they got handsy at the diner. He could handle one injured crime lord with an opinion problem. I'm trying to help, Jihoon said, his voice tight. You're trying to control. There's a difference. Control keeps people alive. Control is what got you shot 3 times and bleeding in my apartment. Min-suk secured the last pin and lifted Yuki, who immediately started fussing again. When's the last time this kid ate? Jihoon's expression shifted, something guilty crossing his features. Before the crash. Maybe 6 hours ago. 6? Min-suk bit off the rest of his sentence. Getting angry wouldn't help. Okay, I have instant coffee creamer. I've been diluting it with warm water, but I don't think it's enough. He needs real nutrition. There's formula in the diaper bag. Min-suk froze. What diaper bag? The one in the car seat. Side pocket. Min-suk wanted to scream. He'd been making do with coffee creamer for hours while there was actual baby formula right there. He unzipped the pocket with shaking hands and found 3 bottles of premixed formula, a package of actual diapers, and a clean onesie. You couldn't have mentioned this earlier? I was unconscious earlier. Then I was being held at gunpoint by you. Then the power went out. Jihoon shifted against the wall, his face going gray. Time got away from me. Min-suk took a deep breath. Getting angry wouldn't help. He'd already established that. Fine. Okay. At least we have supplies now. He warmed the bottle against his chest. No microwave, no hot water, and settled on the floor with Yuki. The baby latched on immediately, sucking desperately, and Min Suk felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. You're good with him, Ji-hoon said quietly. Min Suk didn't look up. I'm winging it. So am I. There was something raw in Ji-hoon's voice. I've held him maybe twice before this. My brother and his mate, they didn't want the family business anywhere near their son. They were trying to get out. And now, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. The silence stretched between them, broken only by Yuki's soft suckling sounds and the howl of wind outside. The temperature had dropped significantly. Min Suk could see his breath now, small clouds in the candlelight. We should pile the blankets, Min Suk said. Create a warm space. The baby needs. He cut off as a wave of scent hit him. Alpha pheromones, thick and heady, rolling through the small apartment like a physical force. Min Suk's suppressants should have blocked it. He'd taken a double dose just yesterday. But this was different. Stronger. Overwhelming. Ji-hoon. Min Suk's voice came out shakier than he intended. The alpha had his eyes closed, his chest heaving with shallow breaths. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold. Healing response, he gritted out. My body's trying to accelerate recovery. The pheromones, I can't control it. Min Suk knew about healing responses. Every Omega learned about them in their mandatory biology classes, usually accompanied by warnings to stay away from injured alphas because the pheromones could trigger a sympathetic Omega response. Heat adjacent. Dangerous. His suppressants were supposed to prevent this. How long does it last? Min Suk managed, even as his own body started to react. His skin felt too hot, too tight. His Omega hindbrain was waking up, stretching after years of chemical suppression, and it was very interested in the alpha across the room. Hours. Maybe a full day. Ji-hoon's hands clenched into fists. You need to stay away from me. We're in a studio apartment. There is no away. Then take the baby and lock yourself in the bathroom. The bathroom is freezing. Yuki will. Min Suk's breath hitched as another wave of pheromones hit. His vision swam. This is bad. I know. Ji-hoon's voice was strained. Min Suk, I mean it. Get away from me before. Yuki finished his bottle and immediately started crying again. Loud, insistent wails that cut through the pheromone haze. Both men's attention snapped to the baby. Min Suk's Omega instincts surged. Protect the baby, nest, keep the pack safe. Pack. When had his brain decided Ji-hoon was pack? He's cold, Min Suk heard himself say. His voice sounded distant, dreamy. We're all cold. Min Suk, you said it yourself. We need to share body heat. Min Suk gathered every blanket he owned, creating a nest on the floor between them. Omega instinct drove his movements, arranging and rearranging until it felt right. Safe. Warm. For the baby. Ji-hoon watched him with dark, hungry eyes. This is a bad idea. Everything about this situation is a bad idea. Min Suk settled Yuki in the center of the blanket nest, then looked at Ji-hoon. Can you move? Barely. Then I'll help you. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers, and tell me where you're watching from. Getting Ji-hoon from the wall to the nest involved a lot of swearing, some reopened stitches, and Min Suk supporting most of the alpha's weight. By the time they collapsed into the blankets, both were breathing hard. Ji-hoon's pheromones were suffocating now, and Min Suk's Omega biology was screaming at him to get closer, to touch, to submit. He did none of those things. Instead, he positioned Yuki between them, creating a buffer. Smart, Ji-hoon said roughly. Using the baby as a chaperone. I'm full of smart ideas today. Min Suk pulled blankets over all three of them, like rescuing bleeding crime lords, and making nests, and pretending this is totally normal. Ji-hoon's laugh was pained. Nothing about this is normal. They lay there in the candlelight, Yuki between them, the snowstorm raging outside. The alpha pheromones made Min Suk's skin hypersensitive. Every brush of fabric felt like fire. His suppressants were failing completely now, his Omega nature rising to meet Ji-hoon's alpha call. Tell me something, Min Suk said, desperate for distraction. Something that's not about guns or the mafia or people trying to kill us. Ji-hoon was quiet for so long that Min Suk thought he'd refuse. Then, my brother used to make the worst dad jokes. Just terrible. Yuki would laugh anyway. Every single time. Yeah. Ji-hoon's hand rested on Yuki's small chest, feeling the baby's heartbeat. He was a good father. Better than ours ever was. He deserved more time. Min Suk's throat tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just help me keep his son alive. Deal. Yuki made a small, contented sound, warm and safe between them. Outside, the storm showed no signs of stopping. Inside, Two broken people, and a baby tried to create something like warmth in the darkness. And Min Suk tried very hard not to think about how right it felt. Min Suk woke to church bells echoing in the distance. Christmas Eve. The power was still out, but weak gray light filtered through the snow-covered window. Yuki was awake, making soft cooing sounds, and Ji-hoon was staring at the ceiling with an expression Min Suk couldn't read. "You should sleep," Min Suk said quietly. "I can take him." "Can't sleep." Ji-hoon's voice was rough. "Every time I close my eyes, I see my brother." Min Suk carefully lifted Yuki from between them, cradling the warm weight against his chest. The baby had been changed and fed an hour ago. They developed a system, wordless and efficient, passing the baby back and forth through the night. It felt disturbingly domestic. "You don't have to talk about it," Min Suk offered. "Maybe I need to." Ji-hoon shifted, wincing as his wounds pulled. The healing response had finally faded around dawn, leaving him exhausted and Min Suk's Omega instincts mercifully quiet. "You risked your life for us. You deserve to know what you're caught up in." Min Suk settled against the wall, rocking Yuki gently. Outside, the snow had finally stopped, leaving everything buried under white. "Okay, tell me." Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes fixed on Yuki. "My father built the Choi family into what it is. Ruthless, efficient, profitable. When he died 3 years ago, I inherited everything, the businesses, the territory, the blood on our hands." His jaw tightened. "My younger brother, Jae-sung, wanted nothing to do with it. He met an Omega, fell in love, had a baby. They were planning to leave Korea entirely. Start over somewhere clean. But you wouldn't let them," Min Suk guessed. "I helped them." Ji-hoon's voice cracked slightly. "I was going to give Jae-sung enough money to disappear. Fake identities, clean passports, a new life. They were supposed to leave December 20th. What happened? My cousin happened. Park Min-jae. He's been gunning for my position since my father died, but he never had the balls to make a move. Until he found out about Jae-sung's plans." Ji-hoon's hands clenched into fists. Min-jae saw an opportunity. If he could kill me and Jae-sung in one move, he'd eliminate both heirs. Take control of everything. Min Suk's arms tightened around Yuki. "So he went after your brother first. Hit them at their apartment. Professional job. Made it look like a rival gang. Jae-sung and his mate were both killed instantly." Ji-hoon's voice went flat, emotionless in the way that meant he was barely holding it together. "I got the call at 2 in the morning. Raced over there and found the whole place crawling with Min-jae's people, searching for Yuki. They wanted to tie up loose ends. But you got there first. The nanny had hidden him in a closet. Smart woman. She gave him to me and told me to run." Ji-hoon's eyes closed briefly. Min-jae's men opened fire in the hallway. "I got Yuki to the car, drove to my safe house in Itaewon. Thought we'd be secure there for a few days while I planned my next move. They found you. Someone on my staff sold me out. I don't know who yet." The promise of violence in those words made Min Suk shiver. "They hit the safe house 2 days ago. I grabbed Yuki and ran. Got to the car, but they were waiting. Rammed us off the road in your neighborhood." Min Suk thought about the crash, the blood, the desperate way Ji-hoon had held Yuki even unconscious. "You shielded him with your body." "Of course I did. He's all I have left of my brother." Ji-hoon finally looked at Min Suk, and the raw grief in his eyes was staggering. "Jae-sung was a good man. Better than me. Better than our father. He deserved to watch his son grow up. Instead he's dead and his voice broke. "I couldn't save him. But I can save Yuki." Yuki chose that moment to grab Min Suk's finger, his tiny hand surprisingly strong. Min Suk looked down at the baby, this innocent child caught in the middle of a war he didn't understand, and felt something fierce settle in his chest. "What's your plan?" Min Suk asked. "Once you're healed, burn it all down." Ji-hoon's voice was cold steel. "Everyone who betrayed me, everyone who touched my brother, everyone who came after this baby. I'm going to remind them exactly who runs the Choi family. And then I'm going to make sure Yuki never has to live this life." "By doing what?" "Legitimizing everything. My father had investments, real estate, tech companies, import-export that's actually legal. I'll keep enough of the old business to maintain power. But the rest?" Ji-hoon shook his head. "Jae-sung wanted out because he saw what this life does to people. He was right. I can't undo what I am, but I can make sure Yuki has choices." Min Suk rocked the baby, processing. "That's surprisingly noble for a mob boss. Don't mistake me for a good man." Ji-hoon's eyes were hard. "I've killed people. I'll kill more before this is over. The things I've done, the things I'm going to do, they'd make you sick." "Probably," Min Suk agreed. But you're also the man who held a baby while bleeding out, who says his nephew's name like a prayer, who's planning to burn down his own empire to give that baby a future. He met Ji-hoon's gaze steadily. Maybe you're not as bad as you think. Or maybe you're not seeing clearly. Stockholm Syndrome, maybe. Or the pheromones. The pheromones wore off hours ago, and I'm not your hostage. Min-suk shifted Yuki to his shoulder. I'm choosing to be here. For him. And maybe a little bit for you. Ji-hoon stared at him like he was a puzzle that didn't make sense. Why? You don't know me. You owe me nothing. The smart thing would be to turn us in the second the storm clears. The smart thing would have been leaving you in that alley. Min-suk smiled bitterly. But I've never been good at smart decisions. Besides, you were right earlier. I involved myself. That makes me responsible too. That's not how responsibility works. Says who? You. Min-suk laughed quietly. I've been alone for 3 years. No pack, no family, nobody who gave a damn if I lived or died. And then I found you, this broken alpha with a baby, both of you needing help. Maybe I'm selfish. Maybe I just wanted to matter to someone, even if it's only for a few days. Ji-hoon's expression shifted, something almost tender crossing his features. You matter. To who? You barely know me. I know enough. Ji-hoon reached out slowly, giving Min-suk time to pull away. When he didn't, Ji-hoon's fingers brushed against his cheek. I know you're brave enough to rescue strangers. Kind enough to use your last supplies on a baby. Strong enough to stand up to an alpha twice your size. That's enough. Min-suk's breath caught. The touch was gentle, almost reverent, and it made something in his chest ache. Ji-hoon. Church bells rang again, echoing through the silent neighborhood. Midnight. Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, Ji-hoon said softly. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers and tell me where you're watching from. Min-suk looked at the alpha, at the baby in his arms, at the tiny apartment that had become a sanctuary. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Yuki yawned, his small face scrunching up adorably. Min-suk settled back into the nest of blankets, and Ji-hoon moved carefully to join them. They lay there in the candlelight, the baby between them, and for just a moment, Min-suk let himself pretend this was real. That they were a family. That this feeling would last beyond the snowstorm. Tomorrow, reality would crash back in. Ji-hoon's enemies would come. Decisions would have to be made. But tonight, on Christmas Eve bleeding into Christmas morning, 3 broken souls found something like peace in a tiny apartment at the edge of the world. Min-suk woke on Christmas morning to find himself rearranging blankets. He didn't remember deciding to do it. One moment he was half asleep, and the next his hands were moving on their own, folding and refolding, creating layers and barriers and soft spaces. The apartment was still freezing, but the nest, when had he started thinking of it as a nest, was warm. Safe. Perfect for Yuki. What are you doing? Ji-hoon's voice was rough with sleep. Min-suk froze, his hands still clutching a pillow. I don't know. It wasn't right. The blankets. They needed to be. He trailed off, realizing how insane he sounded. Ji-hoon was watching him with an intensity that made Min-suk's skin prickle. You're nesting. I don't nest. I'm on suppressants. We're on suppressants. Ji-hoon shifted to sit up, his wounds clearly still painful, but healing faster than they should. How long since your last dose? Min-suk tried to remember. 3 days? 4. The bottle was in his bathroom cabinet. He should take 1. He should take 2 just to be safe. But the thought of getting up, of leaving the nest, of disrupting the perfect arrangement he'd created, it felt wrong. The healing response burned through whatever was left in your system, Ji-hoon said. His dark eyes tracked every movement as Min-suk tucked another blanket into place. Your omega nature is emerging. This is temporary. Once I take more suppressants. You're not taking more suppressants. Min-suk's head snapped up. Excuse me? It's not safe. Not with Yuki here. Ji-hoon's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Suppressants suppress everything, including your ability to care for an infant. Your instincts are what's keeping him alive right now. My instincts are what's making me rearrange furniture at 6 in the morning. Your instincts created a warm, safe space for a baby in an apartment with no heat. Ji-hoon gestured at the nest. You've maximized warmth retention, created barriers against drafts, positioned everything so Yuki is protected from all sides. That's not crazy. That's biology. Min-suk looked at what he'd built. Ji-hoon was right. He'd unconsciously created a perfect microenvironment. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt good. Right. I hate this, Min-suk muttered. Liar. Min-suk grabbed another pillow and threw it at Ji-hoon's head. The alpha caught it one-handed, his lips twitching into something almost like a smile, and added it to the nest with a careful precision that made Min Suk's omega hindbrain purr with satisfaction. Wait. Purr. He did not just mentally purr at an alpha arranging pillows. I need coffee, Min Suk announced, standing abruptly. Or something. Anything that's not this. He made it 3 steps before his omega instincts screamed at him. The nest wasn't finished. Yuki was still sleeping, vulnerable, and Min Suk was walking away. Wrong. All wrong. Min Suk gritted his teeth and kept walking. He would not be controlled by biology. He'd spent 3 years suppressing these instincts. 3 years proving he didn't need pack or alpha or any of the things omegas were supposed to want. He wasn't going to crumble now just because some crime lord looked at him like. Like what? Min Suk busied himself in the kitchen, trying to find something edible that didn't require power. He had crackers, half a jar of kimchi, some instant noodles he could eat dry if he got desperate enough. Min Suk. Ji-hoon's voice carried across the apartment. Come back. I'm busy. Doing what? Staring at expired ramen. Min Suk gripped the counter, fighting the urge to return to the nest. To check on Yuki. To make sure Ji-hoon was comfortable, that his wounds weren't bleeding, that. This is ridiculous, Min Suk said to the empty kitchen. I'm not his omega. He's not my alpha. We're just 2 people stuck in a bad situation. You're right. Min Suk spun to find Ji-hoon standing in the kitchen doorway, one hand braced against the frame for support. He shouldn't be standing. He definitely shouldn't be walking. Get back in the nest before you fall over. It's not a nest. It's blankets on a floor. But Ji-hoon's eyes said otherwise. He looked at the arrangement Min Suk had created with something like reverence. Although if it were a nest, it would be the best damn nest I've ever seen. You're delirious from blood loss. Probably. Ji-hoon took a careful step forward. But I'm also right. You've created something safe. Something good. For Yuki. For all of us. There is no us. Min Suk backed against the counter. In a few days, you'll be healed. You'll take Yuki and go back to your world of crime and violence and what? Leave you here. Ji-hoon's voice dropped. In this apartment with an eviction notice on the door? In a neighborhood where you found me bleeding in an alley? Where you work yourself to death for people who don't appreciate you? That's my life. My choice. It doesn't have to be. Ji-hoon moved closer, his scent wrapping around Min Suk even without the healing response amplifying it. Come with us. When this is over, when I've dealt with my enemies, come with us. Min Suk's heart stuttered. You don't mean that. I never say things I don't mean. Ji-hoon was close enough now that Min Suk could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. You've proven yourself a dozen times over. You're brave, resourceful, kind. You care for Yuki like he's your own. And you. His hand came up to cup Min Suk's face. You make me want things I thought I'd given up on. Ji-hoon, I'm not asking you to decide now. I'm just asking you to consider it. His thumb brushed across Min Suk's cheekbone. I can give you safety. Security. A home that isn't falling apart. A life where you don't have to fight for every scrap. In exchange for what? Being your omega. Min Suk tried to sound bitter, but his voice came out breathless. In exchange for being yourself. Ji-hoon's smile was soft. The person who builds nests at dawn and argues with mob bosses and saves babies in snowstorms. That's all I want. Yuki's cry cut through the moment. Both men turned toward the sound, their bodies moving in sync. Min Suk reached the nest first, lifting the baby with practiced ease, while Ji-hoon settled back into the blankets with a pained grunt. And just like that, they fell into their rhythm. Min Suk changed Yuki while Ji-hoon prepared a bottle. Ji-hoon held the baby while Min Suk adjusted blankets. They moved around each other like they'd been doing this for years, not days. Min Suk watched Ji-hoon feed Yuki, the alpha's large hands cradling the baby with impossible gentleness, and something in his chest cracked open. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This wasn't just about helping someone in need. This was about wanting. Wanting the alpha who looked at him like he mattered. Wanting the baby who fit perfectly in his arms. Wanting the family he'd convinced himself he didn't deserve. I'll think about it, Min Suk heard himself say. Ji-hoon looked up from Yuki, hope flickering in his dark eyes. Yeah. Min Suk settled into the nest beside them, letting himself relax into the warmth. But I'm not making any promises. I'm not asking for promises. Just a chance. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, sending golden light across the snow-covered city. Inside, 3 people who'd found each other in the darkness created something fragile and new. Min Suk's omega instincts hummed with contentment. The nest was perfect. The baby was safe. The alpha was his. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, as Ji-hoon's hand found his across Yuki's sleeping form, it felt like coming home. The silence woke Min-suk. Not the absence of sound. The apartment still creaked. Yuki still breathed softly in his sleep. Ji-hoon still shifted occasionally in the nest. But the howling wind had stopped. The relentless whistle of the blizzard that had been their constant companion for 3 days was gone. Min-suk extracted himself carefully from the tangle of blankets and limbs, crossing to the window. The world outside was transformed. Everything buried under pristine white, the sun breaking through clouds for the first time in days. Beautiful. Deadly. They'll come today, Ji-hoon said from behind him. Min-suk didn't turn around. How do you know? Because that's what I would do. Wait for the storm to pass, then move in while the target's still trapped. Ji-hoon's footsteps were nearly silent as he approached. My cousin's not stupid. He'll have people watching every exit from this neighborhood. Then we leave before they get organized. Take Yuki and run. To where? Ji-hoon's hand settled on Min-suk's shoulder. I have safe houses, but they've all been compromised. Hotels require ID. We can't risk a hospital for my wounds. And you, his grip tightened slightly. You have nowhere to go. Min-suk stared at their reflection in the window glass. Ji-hoon still looked like death warmed over. Pale, bandaged, moving carefully. But there was a predatory alertness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He was healing, getting stronger, preparing for war. I could disappear, Min-suk said quietly. Take Yuki somewhere your cousin would never look. I'm nobody. I don't exist in your world. That makes me invisible. Absolutely not. Listen to me. No, you listen. Ji-hoon turned Min-suk to face him, his dark eyes blazing. You think I'd let you walk into danger with my nephew? You think I'd let you sacrifice yourself so I can what? Live with the guilt. Figure out a new plan? You'd be free to fight back. Without worrying about us. I'd be out of my mind worrying about you. Ji-hoon's voice rose, then dropped as he visibly controlled himself. Both of you. Every second of every day. Wondering if Min-jae found you. If you had enough money. If Yuki was safe. If you were, he stopped, his jaw clenching. Min-suk's heart pounded. If I was what? Alive. Happy. Taken care of. Ji-hoon's hands came up to frame Min-suk's face. I can't let you go. I won't. You don't own me. I know that. God, I know that. Ji-hoon's thumb brushed across Min-suk's lower lip. But I want to. I want you to be mine in every way that matters. I want to wake up to you building nests and arguing with me about baby care and looking at me like I'm not a monster. Min-suk's breath hitched. Ji-hoon, let me claim you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. A claiming bite. A mating bond. Forever. You're insane, Min-suk whispered. We've known each other for 3 days. 3 days of the most intense honesty I've ever experienced. Ji-hoon's forehead pressed against Min-suk's. No games. No manipulation. Just 2 people trying to keep a baby alive. I've seen you at your worst and your best. I've seen your strength, your kindness, your fire. And I want all of it. You want an Omega. Any Omega would. I want you. Ji-hoon's voice was fierce. Not your designation. You. Min-suk, who throws pillows at mob bosses. Who performs surgery with chopsticks. Who creates miracles out of dish towels and coffee creamer. You're extraordinary, and you don't even see it. Min-suk's eyes burned. You don't know what you're asking. A mating bond, it's permanent. You can't undo it. And once your enemies know about me, before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers, and tell me where you're watching from. They'll know you're under my protection. That touching you means death. Ji-hoon's hand slid to Min-suk's neck, his thumbs resting over the scent glands. I can keep you safe. Both of you. But I need you to trust me. I barely know you. You know the parts that matter. Ji-hoon's lips brushed against Min-suk's temple. You know I'd die for Yuki. You know I honor my word. You know I see you, really see you, as more than just an Omega. Isn't that enough? Min-suk closed his eyes, overwhelmed. His Omega instincts were screaming yes, accept bond, mate. But his rational mind saw all the problems. The danger. The impossibility of a mob boss and a diner worker building any kind of real life together. What about after? Min-suk asked. After you've dealt with your cousin. After the danger passes. What happens when you remember I'm not part of your world? You become part of my world. Ji-hoon pulled back enough to meet Min-suk's eyes. I meant what I said yesterday. I'm getting out. Legitimizing. Building something Yuki won't be ashamed of. And I want you there. Not as my Omega, as my partner. My equal. My mate. Pretty words. True words. Ji-hoon's smile was sad. I know I don't deserve you. I know my hands are covered in blood, and my soul is probably damned. But you make me want to be better. And maybe that's selfish, but I'm too far gone to care. Yuki made a small sound from the nest, and both men turned toward him instinctively. The baby was waking, his tiny fists rubbing at his eyes. He needs us, Min-suk said softly. Both of us. I know. Ji-hoon's hand found Min-suk's, their fingers intertwining. So let me make this official. Let me give you my name, my protection, my everything. Say yes, Min-suk. Be mine. Min-suk looked at their joined hands, at the nest they'd built together, at the baby they'd kept alive against all odds. 3 days ago, he'd been alone, broke, and convinced he'd die that way. Now he was standing in the ruins of his apartment with a mafia don offering him the world. It was insane. Impossible. Dangerous. It was also the only thing that felt right. If I say yes, Min-suk said slowly, I have conditions. Ji-hoon's eyes lit up with hope. Name them. Yuki comes first. Always. Every decision, every plan, his safety is paramount. Agreed. I'm not some trophy Omega. I pull my weight. I have opinions. And you listen to them. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Ji-hoon's smile was genuine now. What else? No more secrets. If we're doing this, really doing this, I need honesty. All of it. The good and the ugly. You'll get it. Ji-hoon lifted their joined hands, pressing a kiss to Min-suk's knuckles. Anything else? Min-suk took a shaky breath. Promise me you'll survive whatever's coming. Because I'm not doing this just to lose you. Ji-hoon's expression softened. I promise. I have too much to live for now. Then yes. The word came out barely above a whisper. Yes, I'll be yours. Ji-hoon kissed him then, fierce and claiming, one hand tangling in Min-suk's hair while the other wrapped around his waist. Min-suk melted into it, his Omega instincts singing with rightness as Ji-hoon's scent surrounded him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hoon's eyes had gone dark with want. The claiming, he said roughly. It should be now. Before they come. Min-suk nodded, tilting his head to expose his neck. His heart raced, but he wasn't afraid. This was right. This was. Yuki started crying, his wails cutting through the moment. Both men laughed, the tension breaking. Ji-hoon pressed a kiss to Min-suk's forehead. After. When we're safe. I want to do this properly. There's nothing proper about any of this. Then we'll make our own proper. Ji-hoon stepped back, his hand lingering on Min-suk's cheek. Get ready. They'll be here soon. And when they come, we protect our family, Min-suk finished. Ji-hoon's smile was sharp and deadly. Exactly. They had maybe an hour. Ji-hoon moved through the apartment with deadly efficiency despite his wounds, gathering weapons from where Min-suk had hidden them. The guns, the knife, the brass knuckles, all laid out on the counter like surgical instruments. How many? Min-suk asked, Yuki clutched against his chest. At least 4. Maybe 6 if Min-jae's being thorough. Ji-hoon checked the magazine on his Glock, his movements practiced. They'll come in hard and fast. No negotiation. Min-suk's hands shook. What do I do? You hide. Ji-hoon crossed to the tiny bathroom, yanking open the cabinet under the sink. This space, it's small but you can fit. Take Yuki, get inside, and don't come out until I tell you it's safe. That's a cabinet. That's your panic room. Ji-hoon pulled out the pipes with brutal efficiency. They came away easily, already loosened. I checked it yesterday. The building's old. This shaft connects to the one below. If things go bad, you can drop down to the 3rd floor and run. Min-suk stared at the dark space, his Omega instincts screaming. Confined. Trapped. Vulnerable. I can't. You can. For him. Ji-hoon's eyes softened as he looked at Yuki. Keep him quiet. Keep him safe. That's your job. What's your job? Ji-hoon's smile was terrifying. Making sure they regret coming here. A car engine rumbled in the street below. Then another. Ji-hoon's entire body went still, his head cocking toward the window. They're here, he said quietly. Get in. Now. Min-suk moved on instinct, climbing into the cabinet with Yuki pressed against his chest. It was cramped, dark, and smelled like mildew, but Ji-hoon was right, they fit. Barely. Remember, Ji-hoon said, his face inches from Min-suk's in the confined space. No matter what you hear, you stay hidden. Promise me. Ji-hoon. Promise me. I promise. Min-suk grabbed Ji-hoon's shirt, pulling him close for a desperate kiss. Don't die. Not planning on it. Ji-hoon kissed him back, fierce and claiming. I have too much waiting for me. Then the cabinet door closed, and Min-suk was alone in the dark with a baby and his racing heart. The first gunshot came 3 minutes later. Min-suk flinched, his hand coming up to cover Yuki's ears, even though the baby was miraculously still sleeping. The suppressants in the formula. Ji-hoon must have dosed it before they'd hidden. Smart. Terrifying, but smart. More gunshots. Shouting in Korean. Heavy footsteps in the hallway outside the apartment. Then Ji-hoon's voice, cold and commanding. You've made a mistake coming here. The mistake was yours, cousin. A new voice, smooth and mocking. Min-jae, did you really think you could hide in this shithole forever? With some Omega whore and my nephew. The sound of flesh hitting flesh. A grunt of pain, not Ji-hoon's. Watch your mouth, Ji-hoon said softly. Or I'll remove your tongue. Big talk from a dead man. You're outnumbered. Outgunned. Still bleeding from the last time we. The gunshot was deafening. Someone screamed. Bodies hit the floor. Anyone else want to negotiate? Ji-hoon's voice was steady, lethal. No. Good. The firefight erupted in earnest then. Min-suk lost count of the shots, pressing Yuki tighter against his chest and humming softly to drown out the violence. The baby stirred but didn't wake, his small body warm and trusting in Min-suk's arms. Glass shattered. Furniture splintered. Men shouted orders, curses, please. And through it all, Ji-hoon moved like death itself. Min-suk could track him by sound alone. The precise crack of his gun, the heavy thud of bodies dropping, the deadly calm of his voice as he called out positions and threats. The Alpha was injured, probably reopening every wound, definitely pushing his body past safe limits. But he didn't stop. The Omega, someone shouted. Find the Omega and the baby. Footsteps thundered toward the bathroom. Min-suk's breath caught, his arms locking around Yuki. The cabinet door was flimsy. One good kick and the footsteps stopped. A wet gurgling sound. A body collapsed right outside the cabinet. Nice try, Ji-hoon said, breathing hard. But they're mine. And you don't touch what's mine. More gunfire. Someone was screaming, high and terrified, until another shot cut them off abruptly. Then silence. Min-suk counted his heartbeats. 10, 20, 30. Min-suk. Ji-hoon's voice rough and pained. It's clear. You can come out. Min-suk's hands shook too badly to work the cabinet door. Ji-hoon opened it from the outside, and Min-suk nearly sobbed with relief. The Alpha was covered in blood, some his, some definitely not, but he was standing. Alive. Is it over? Min-suk whispered. For now. Ji-hoon helped him out of the cabinet, his movements careful despite the violence he'd just unleashed. Min-jae ran when his men fell. Coward. But he'll be back with reinforcements. Min-suk looked past Ji-hoon to the apartment. The destruction was catastrophic. Bodies on the floor, 4 of them, blood splattered across walls. His nest was destroyed, the blankets soaked red. Oh God, Min-suk breathed. Don't look. Ji-hoon turned Min-suk away from the carnage. Just focus on Yuki. Is he hurt? Min-suk checked frantically, but the baby was fine. Still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the war that had raged around him. He's okay. How are you? Ji-hoon swayed slightly, catching himself against the wall. His bandages were soaked through, fresh blood seeping from reopened wounds. I'm fine. You're bleeding everywhere. Flesh wounds. Ji-hoon's smile was strained. I've had worse. That's not reassuring. A phone buzzed. Ji-hoon pulled out a blood-spattered cell, not his, taken from one of the bodies, and answered it. Yeah, good. How long? Understood. He ended the call and looked at Min-suk. My people. They're 10 minutes out. They've been tracking Min-jae since the safe house attack, waiting for him to make his move. You used yourself as bait. I used us as bait. Ji-hoon's expression was grim. I'm sorry. It was the only way to draw them all out. To end this. Min-suk should have been angry. Should have felt betrayed. Instead, he just felt tired. Did it work? Min-jae's running. My people have him cornered 3 blocks from here. By the time the sun sets, Ji-hoon's eyes went cold. The Choi family will have new leadership. Loyal leadership. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone in the building had finally called the police. We need to go, Ji-hoon said. Now. Before. He collapsed. Min-suk lunged forward, catching Ji-hoon with one arm while clutching Yuki with the other. The Alpha was unconscious, his breathing shallow, his skin gray. No, no, no. Min-suk lowered him to the floor, checking his pulse. Still there. Weak but there. Ji-hoon, wake up. Your people are coming. You said 10 minutes. You just have to hold on for. The apartment door burst open. Min-suk grabbed the nearest gun with shaking hands, pointing it at the intruders. 3 men in black suits, weapons drawn. But they weren't pointing at Min-suk. They were lowering their guns, their expressions shocked. Boss! The lead man dropped to his knees beside Ji-hoon. Sir, we've got you. Medical's on the way. Min-suk kept the gun trained on them. Who are you? Kim Tae-won, head of boss's security. The man's eyes flicked to Yuki, then to Min-suk. You're the Omega, the one who saved him. I'm the one who'll shoot you if you're lying. Tae-won's lips twitched into an almost smile. Boss said you had fire. He wasn't wrong. He gestured to his men. Get the medical kit. And someone call cleanup. We've got 4 bodies, Anne. He looked around the destroyed apartment. Jesus. Boss did all this. He protected us, Min-suk said fiercely. Yeah. Tae-won's expression softened. Yeah, he did. Min-suk woke in a bed that wasn't his, in a room flooded with winter sunlight, with monitors beeping softly in the background. Ji-hoon was asleep in the chair beside the bed, his hand wrapped around Min-suk's wrist like even unconscious he needed the connection. Medical equipment surrounded him. IVs, bandages, the antiseptic smell of a private hospital room. But he was alive, breathing, healing. You're awake. Tae-won appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted but relieved. How are you feeling? Where's Yuki? Min-suk tried to sit up, panic flooding through him. With a nanny. 2 doors down. Under guard. Tae-won held up a hand. He's safe. Fed changed, completely fine. You've been out for 18 hours. Min-suk sagged back against the pillows. 18 hours. The siege felt like yesterday and a lifetime ago simultaneously. Min-jae. Dead. Tae-won's expression was grim. Boss's orders were clear. No loose ends. The traitors have been dealt with. The Choi family is secure. Ji-hoon stirred, his eyes opening slowly. When he saw Min-suk awake, relief flooded his features. You're okay. I'm okay. You collapsed. Blood loss. They gave me transfusions. Ji-hoon's hand tightened on Min-suk's wrist. I'm sorry. For everything. For using you as bait, for the danger, for... Stop. Min-suk covered Ji-hoon's hand with his own. You protected us. You kept your promise. That's enough. Ji-hoon's eyes were suspiciously bright. I don't deserve you. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers and tell me where you're watching from. Probably not. Min-suk's smile was soft. But you're stuck with me anyway. Tae-won cleared his throat. I'll give you privacy. But boss, the council wants to meet tomorrow. They need to see you're alive and in control. Tomorrow, Ji-hoon agreed. Now get out. Tae-won left with a knowing smile, closing the door behind him. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Ji-hoon stood, moving carefully to sit on the edge of Min-suk's bed. I almost lost you, he said quietly. When those men came for the bathroom, when I heard you in that cabinet with Yuki, I've never been that terrified in my life. But you didn't lose us. We're here. We're safe. Because I got lucky. Because my people arrived in time. Because, Ji-hoon's jaw clenched. It won't happen again. I'm making changes. Legitimizing everything, just like I said. No more wars. No more coups. Just business. Clean business. And if someone challenges you, they'll learn very quickly why that's a mistake. Ji-hoon's smile was sharp. I'm getting out of the dirty work, Min-suk. Not going soft. Min-suk laughed despite everything. Good. I like you dangerous. Yeah. Ji-hoon's hand came up to cup Min-suk's face. Even knowing what I'm capable of? Especially knowing that. Min-suk leaned into the touch. You're dangerous to people who threaten your family. I'm not threatened. I'm protected. Ji-hoon's eyes darkened. About that. The claiming. I want, if you still want. Yes. Min-suk didn't let him finish. Yes. Now. Before something else tries to kill us. Ji-hoon's laugh was breathless. Here. In a hospital bed. I don't care where. I just want to be yours. Min-suk tilted his head, exposing his neck. Claim me, Ji-hoon. Make it official. Ji-hoon's control cracked. He leaned in, his lips brushing against Min-suk's scent gland, and whispered, Mine. Then he bit down. The pain was sharp and immediate, but it transformed almost instantly into something else. Something right. Min-suk felt the bond snap into place like a key turning in a lock, felt Ji-hoon's emotions flooding through the connection. Love, possessiveness, fierce protectiveness, and underneath it all that Min-suk had chosen him. When Ji-hoon pulled back, his lips stained with blood, his eyes were molten. My Omega. My mate. Your pain in the ass, Min-suk corrected, but he was smiling. Your argumentative, stubborn, occasionally insane mate. Perfect, Ji-hoon murmured, kissing him softly. Absolutely perfect. 6 months later, Min-suk woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the sound of Yuki's laughter echoing from downstairs. The estate was massive, Too big, Min-suk had argued when Ji-hoon first showed it to him. But it had grown on him. The gardens where Yuki took his first steps. The kitchen where Min-suk learned to cook something other than instant ramen. The library where Ji-hoon worked late into the night, transforming the Choi Empire into something legitimate. Min-suk padded downstairs barefoot, following the sound of his family. He found them in the sunroom. Ji-hoon on the floor with Yuki, helping the 9-month-old stack blocks while the baby babbled happily. "Da-da-da," Yuki chanted, reaching for Ji-hoon. "That's right, little one." Ji-hoon's smile was soft. "And where's Papa?" Yuki's head swiveled toward Min-suk, his face lighting up. "Papa!" Min-suk's heart melted like it did every single time. He crossed the room and dropped to his knees, scooping Yuki into his arms. "Good morning, baby. Did you sleep well?" "He was up at 5, Ji-hoon said wryly. "I've been up since then." "Where were you?" "Actually sleeping for once." Min-suk settled on the floor beside them, Yuki in his lap. "You should have woken me. You needed rest. The nesting yesterday tired you out." Min-suk flushed. He'd spent 6 hours rearranging the nursery, driven by omega instincts that still surprised him sometimes. It wasn't right. The crib needed to be closer to the window for morning light, and now it's perfect. Ji-hoon kissed his temple. "Like everything you do. Flatterer. Truth teller." Ji-hoon's hand settled on Min-suk's waist, right over the slight swell that neither of them had announced yet. "How are you feeling? Any morning sickness?" Min-suk's hand automatically went to his stomach, protecting. "Not today. I think this one's easier then." He stopped, looking at Yuki. "Do you think he knows? Knows he's going to be a big brother?" Ji-hoon's smile was tender. "Not yet. But he will. And he'll be amazing at it." Yuki grabbed Min-suk's finger, completely oblivious to the conversation about his future sibling, and Min-suk felt that familiar rush of love so intense it hurt. This was his life now. This beautiful, impossible life. "I got the final papers yesterday," Ji-hoon said quietly. "The adoption. Yuki's officially ours. Both of ours." Min-suk's eyes burned. They'd been working on it for months, navigating the legal system, the family court, the questions about an omega parent and a reformed mob boss raising a child. But Ji-hoon's lawyers were excellent, and his money opened doors. "He was always ours," Min-suk said. "Now it's legal." Ji-hoon pulled out a document, showing Min-suk the official seal. Choi Yuki, son of Choi Ji-hoon and Min Ji-hoon. Min-suk had taken Ji-hoon's name 3 months ago, another piece of belonging clicking into place. Min-suk was gone. He was Ji-hoon now, part of a family, part of something bigger than himself. "Your brother would be proud," Min-suk said softly, "of what you've built, what you're becoming." Ji-hoon's expression shuddered briefly, pain flickering through the bond. "I hope so. I'm trying. The businesses are clean now. The violence is minimal. I'm building something Yuki won't be ashamed of. He'll never be ashamed of you." Min-suk leaned against Ji-hoon's shoulder. "You're his hero. Mine too. I'm no hero. You saved us. You gave us this life. You chose family over power." Min-suk looked around the sunroom, at the life they'd built. "That's pretty heroic to me." Ji-hoon kissed him then, soft and sweet, while Yuki made disgusted baby sounds and tried to push them apart. They broke apart laughing, and Min-suk thought about that night 6 months ago. The alley. The blood. The desperate decision to save a stranger and a baby. He'd thought he was rescuing them. Turned out, they'd rescued him right back. "What are you thinking?" Ji-hoon asked. "That I'm happy." Min-suk smiled through tears. "For the first time in years, I'm actually completely happy." "Good." Ji-hoon's arm tightened around him. "Because I plan to keep you that way for the rest of our lives." Yuki babbled something that might have been agreement, and they sat there in the sunlight, a family forged in darkness, now thriving in the light, and Min-suk finally felt like he'd come home.